The time is now 6 p.m. Our regular City Council meeting for July 26, 2022 is now in session. First on the agenda is Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola will lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas. Please rise.
Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we ask for your blessing on those who gather in your name. At the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus referred to the blessed and the righteous as the salt of the earth and the light of the world, and provided the insight that a city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Oh Lord, as we conduct the business of our city, let us remain mindful of your grace, wisdom, and holy word, which provide a foundation for building a brighter future in a strong, thriving community. A community that through steadfast commitment and actions inspires others to view Schertz as such a city on a hill that shines as a testament to your glory. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, we'll move on to city events and announcements of upcoming events. Mr. Kelm.
Good evening, Mayor. On Thursday, July 28th, we have Glow in the Park from 8 p.m. to 10 at Ashley Park. On Saturday, July 30th, we have music and movies in the park. The movie is Inside Out, begins at 7 p.m., and that's also at Ashley Park. On Tuesday, August the 2nd, is our next regularly scheduled council meeting at 6 p.m. here in the chambers. On Friday, August 5th, we have a council budget retreat from 8 a.m. to 4. That's at the Blue Bonnet Hall in the Civic Center. And then election information filing for a place on the ballot has begun for the November 8th, 2022 City of Schertz joint general election to elect a mayor and council members in place 1 and 2 for a 3-year term from November 2022 and ending November 2025. Filing ends August 22nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. Candidate packets are available online on the city's website and can be obtained in the city secretary's office, 1400 Schertz Parkway, building number 2. That's it.
Thank you. Announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple things tonight. First of all, for promotions, in the month of July, Greg Rogers has been promoted from Assistant Fire Chief to Fire Chief. Madeline Kielholtz has been promoted from EMT to Paramedic. And Alicia Cepeda has been promoted from Communications Officer to Communications Supervisor. So we're glad for those promotions. Also, I would like to thank our Public Works crew and our IT crew for all the hard work they did on the new carpet in Building 2, and we just appreciate everything that they did to get that done, and that project's now complete, so we really do appreciate that. And finally, we've come to the time to say goodbye to one of our own, and that's Charles Kelm, our Assistant City Manager. Charles will be departing the city. Well, his last day at work will be this Friday, and then he'll take the month of August for vacation, basically, and departing the 29th of August. So, Charles, just wanted to say thank you for all your great work. I appreciate all your support, everything that you did. You certainly have worked extremely hard on behalf of the city. There's many accomplishments that you can be proud of, and we just appreciate all the things that you've done and all the effort that you made, because you've made a difference in the city. So I want to pass that along and say thank you, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. So thank you very much.
announcements and recognitions by the mayor. I do have a couple of things. First, I just want to let everybody know I did file my documents, and I'm seeking re-election. And the other thing is, Mr. Kelm, thank you so much for your contributions, your dedication to our city, and the best of luck on your new endeavors. We appreciate everything you have done for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move on to the hearing of residents. This time is set aside for anyone who wishes to address the city council. And we ask before you addressing the council, for the record, please state your name and address. Mayor Pro Tem, please call our first speaker.
We have 3 individuals signed up tonight. First one is Tiffany Gibson.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Tiffany Gibson. I am at 6939 Halley Loop here in the city of Schertz, Texas. I would like to kindly and respectfully announce my candidacy for Schertz City Council, Place 2. I hope and plan and will try to expand the growth of commercial and retail growth for the city of Schertz, potentially expanding in southern Schertz as well. I live here in this community, I work here in this community, as well as raise my young family in this community, and I look forward to trying to fulfill candidacy here with the city of Schertz. Thank you.
Second individual is Ms. Michelle Watson.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Michelle Watson. I've been a longtime resident of, long time in the community, lived and worked in this city. Pleased to announce my candidacy for Schertz City Council, Place 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Mr. Dana Eldridge. Is he going to announce his candidacy too?
No, I'm not applying. Dana Eldridge, 2628 Gallant Fox Drive, Schertz, Texas. Mr. Kelm, thank you for responding when I called. I don't know if I was special or something or other. I seem to get a couple things done through him, so I just want to thank him for that. This last couple weeks, I came back from a cruise, and I unfortunately, some of the passengers getting off the cruise said, "Didn't you say you were from Schertz?" You know, you meet people on thing, and yeah, well, we heard this news, this news, this news. I was sorry to hear it because I'm tired of hearing about shootings in all these little cities here lately. So we made the national news, at least in Houston and Galveston, okay? So I've caught 2 raccoons, or 3, a little bitty one, and then Mom and Dad in the last couple weeks, last couple days actually. Animal control in our city was very responsive in coming out and picking them up. Unfortunately, the young lady that came out wound up being short a cage one of the days and had to take my cage that I had to go out and spend. They're up to almost $70 now if you're looking for a raccoon trap. She had to take my cage back with her. I was able to go pick it up and that kind of stuff. That leads me to this statement, okay? I don't think we're paying our animal control people or giving them enough budget. It says about our magazine. We've had some stuff going on about the magazine wanting extra money. It says, Schertz Magazine is a leading publication in the Tri-County area with a circulation of 16,000 copies, including 14,000 direct mailed and 500 plus subscriptions from Austin through San Antonio and around the country. The magazine is mailed to 15,000 plus local households and over 1,000 businesses. with hundreds of copies made available at local and regional banks, hospitals and clinics, schools, pharmacies, and restaurants. 16,000 copies, but we have 15,000 plus mailed out to local households and over 1,000 businesses, with hundreds of copies made available to all these other places. That comes out to a lot more than 16,000 copies. And in the last last month and a half, we've requested an increase to the budget, city budget, for our Schertz magazine of over $90,000. I think some of that money, I mean, I'm real happy that you guys spent $65,000 on Old Wiederstein Road. But I think that asking for over $90,000 for this magazine, and then our animal control, who is out catching possibly rabid animals and that are causing serious damage. I know 5 hummingbird feeders is not much. Some of our monies could be used a little more wisely within the city budget for animal control or for other things, rather than spending an additional $90,000 for this magazine when the numbers printed in the magazine in the front of the page don't add up.
Thank you, Mr. Aldrich.
That's it.
I think that's it, okay. We'll move on to consent agenda items. These items are considered self-explanatory, and information packets are provided to council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Item number 1, minutes. The approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of July 12, 2022. Item number 2, resolution number 22R74. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an interlocal agreement with Civic Buying Group for cooperative purchasing services and other matters in connection therewith. Item number 3, consideration or action regarding the resignation and appointments of various boards, commissions, and committees. The resignation of Mr. Richard Monte Gonzalez from the Historical Preservation Committee. Council, do any of these need to be removed for separate action? Is there a motion to approve with consent agenda items 1, 2, and 3?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Davis and second by Councilmember Hayward. Any other discussion? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 4, discussion item. Resolution number 22R70. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the approval of development agreements with Wiederstein Trust Fund, Brian Butengall, and Valerie Hartman for approximately 124 acres of land to install on-site sewage facilities and other matters in connection therewith.
Mayor, I'd request that we convene in closed session to continue this.
Okay. Just as a reminder, council can convene into a closed session at any time. Therefore, upon the request of our city attorney, the time is now 6:14. We will reconvene after our discussion. The time is now 6:39. We reconvene into a regular session after our discussion and deliberation regarding Resolution Number 22R70. Council, since there is no action that's needed to be taken, the resolution will stand as previously approved. So we'll move on to another closed session. We're going to move our agenda item, and we're going to go to our closed session. And that will be number 9. The City Council will meet in closed session in accordance with Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, personal matters to conduct annual evaluation of our municipal judge. The time is now 6:40. We will reconvene after our discussion. The time is now 6:57. We reconvene after our closed session regarding agenda item number 9 in reference to the evaluation of our municipal judge. So we move on to item number 12, and the chair would like to make a motion here. The motion is to increase the compensation entitlement to our city judge, and the amounts are as follows. $1,150 for a court session, $950 for a jury trial, $575 for a special docket, and $100 for the magistrate. Council, do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Dalla. Any other discussions? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. All right, we'll move on to item number 5. Okay, item number 5 is ordinance number 22S27, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, providing for the extension of the boundary lines of the City of Schertz, Texas by annexation of approximately 287 acres of land located in Bexar County, approximately 6,050 feet east of the intersection of Trailhead Road and FM 1518. Also known as Bexar County Property Identification Numbers 310053, 310060, 310121, Bexar County, Texas. Final reading. Mr. James, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, just to remind folks what we've got before you, this item has been considered previously, and I'll move through. So just to be clear, Council approved at the last meeting the development agreements associated with these two items. Essentially, and I'll just explain this for folks, the development agreements are for the properties that are currently not in the city limits. They authorize those properties to develop under septic, and they are consistent with the large half-acre lots on the zoning. So we needed to execute those, which we've done prior to annexation, because once you annex it, you can't do a development agreement on it per state law. So the next step, now that that's done, is the annexation. And again, all the acreages are a little bit different because the properties that are in the city limits, those that are not in the city limits, going forward. And so you can see the properties here that we're annexing. Again, part of the property that's being developed is already in the city limits. So essentially, this is the final action for you to go ahead and annex these properties in the city limits. And then the next item would be zoning for the properties that's already in the city and what you just annexed. So staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. James. All right, this is on the agenda as an open public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to address the City Council in reference to this subject? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? Public hearing is closed. Okay, council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Dalla.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 22S27.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Whitaker. Any other comments? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll move on to item number 6, ordinance number 22S28. An ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning approximately 362 acres of land to Planned Development District, PDD, located 6,050 feet east of the intersection of Trailhead Road and FM 1518, also known as Bexar County Property Identification Numbers 310053, 310060, 310061, and 310121, Bexar County, Texas. Final reading. Mr. James, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, this is the largest property you're considering of all three of these related. You can see the subject property that they're looking to develop as part of the Sterling Grove project is highlighted in green. Again, we published the notices going forward. We've covered the current land use plan. We've covered the current zoning. Again, part of it is in the city already. I do want to point out essentially what the developer is looking to do, and I'm going to hop forward to the exhibit because I think this sort of sets the stage, and I'll talk about the standards. You can see the property on the right. That's the larger half-acre property for which the portion not in the city you approved the development agreement. So they've got a good portion of the property that's going to be a minimum of half-acre lots. They can be bigger if need be. And the developer is planning to have those on septic systems. Again, there is a small piece of this that the development agreement doesn't apply to. If they want to septic those, which we think they do, then as part of the platting process, they would need to ask for the septic waiver. But the bulk of the property is what the development agreement covered and allows to go septic. The other side, the left side, if you will, the west side, is typical suburban style development, and I'll move back and touch on the standards. And again, what they've got are a mix of, it's maxed out at 672 lots. They've got a portion of those that can be 6,050 square feet. Council at a prior meeting wanted 35% of those to be 7,150 lots, or 7,150 square feet. Since the last meeting, the developer came and requested and asked that for the SFR1 and SFR2, that the covered patios be allowed to encroach an additional 5 feet into the building setback line. Staff is okay with that. We've built it into the ordinance. Again, if we don't have that, what it typically means is they're having to not connect it to the building to sort of end run it. I don't know that it's ideal for everyone trying to explain a homeowner. So again, it's not, in staff's opinion, inconsistent with what sort of the intent was with the setback, but it is a change that we wanted to note. And you'll note that is in the second asterisk there, that covered patios are allowed to encroach an additional 5 feet. And again, that allows them to connect it to the building essentially and still be okay. So with that, though, staff is recommending approval. There was some discussion last time about the signage, and they provided some graphics with that going forward. But otherwise, staff is recommending approval as conditioned in the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. James. All right, once again, this one is on the agenda as a public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to address the City Council in reference to this subject? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is closed. Council, floor is open for discussion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 22S28.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Whitaker. Councilmember Brown, do you have some comments? Okay. Any other comments? No comments? All right, let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. All right, we'll move on to item number 7. It's a workshop, the appointment of the Mayor Pro Temp. Discussion and consideration of actions regarding the confirmation, appointment, or election of the Mayor Pro Temp. I'd like to point out that the Mayor Pro Temp is a member of the council who performs duties during the mayor's absence or incapacity. The Mayor Pro Temp is elected by the majority vote of this council and among its membership. The Mayor Pro Temp also has the right to vote on any matter that is before council while performing their duties as mayor. The Mayor Pro Temp's term is 6 months. And I'd like to thank Dr. Scagliola, our current Mayor Pro Temp, for performing his duties during the month of January 2022 through August 2022. And based on the procedures and consideration, the appointment of the next rotation for the Mayor Pro Temp is Councilmember Ellison Hayward to serve the term between August 2022 and February 2023. Council, the floor is open for discussion.
Mayor, if you would, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Councilmember Hayward to the next term as Mayor Pro Tem, City of Schertz.
And I second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola to appoint Councilmember Hayward as the next Mayor Pro Tem, and it was seconded by Councilmember Brown. Council, any other comments? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 That was 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. I'd like to point out that our Councilmember Hayward will be sworn in as our new Mayor Pro Temp next week in our August 2nd meeting. So we'll move on to item number 8. Acreage property acquisition. Discussion regarding the potential 10 acres property acquisition generally at FM 482 and Bunker Street. And Ms. Strum, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So I'm here tonight to talk about a potential property acquisition, and I kind of wanted to go through and give you a little bit of an update on our Schertz trails, where we're at, and just review and how this property acquisition fits in with our Schertz trails plan. So as you know, we've been working on the Great Northern Trail for some time. We've made quite a bit of progress. You know, the goals of our trail system are connecting the community. We've had a lot of input from the community through our Parks Master Plan, the citizen satisfaction surveys. Top of the list has always been trails. They're saying, you know, we love our loop trails in our parks, but we want to be able to get on a trail and go somewhere, and we want to be able to connect the neighborhoods. So that's what we've been focusing on doing. Some forward progress. So the picture on the left is just the completed section of the Great Northern Trail at Wiederstein and Schertz Parkway, and then the picture on the right is the completed section at FM 1103. Cibola Valley Baptist Church. So we've been making additions to that trail system. We've also been talking about other trail systems in the city. We've been putting it in the magazine, talking about it at Parks Board. So we do have, you know, grand visions for something on the Cibolo Creek. It's a 20, 30-year venture to be able to have a trail system throughout that entire creekway. And, you know, we just work through different opportunities as they arise, as development occurs, and just really trying to figure out some partnerships and ways we can make this happen over the years. We also have the Woman Hollering Creek Trail, and that's in southern Schertz. We've already acquired some property in the Halley's Cove subdivision along Woman Hollering Creek, and as development occurs in that Trainer Hill area in 1518, we can hopefully get some additional trailway in that area. The Dry Comal Creek Trail has also been on our plan, and it's one that we haven't focused on yet. It's up north. In the industrial area above 35, and then it's rural area out there. But essentially, Dry Comal Creek runs from out in the hill country in the Garden Ridge area and goes all the way to New Braunfels and ends up in the Comal River. And so it's something that we've always wanted to include in our trail system. It happens to overlap with a regional project called the Great Springs Trail. And you may have heard us talk about this. We did a Trail Connect meeting with the Great Springs and had the neighboring cities come in where we could talk about how we could connect our systems. And they're working with all the counties and cities from the Alamo to the Capitol. And they're got this grand vision to create this huge trail network along this 35 corridor and protecting land in the aquifer recharge zone and protecting these Great Springs. So our interests overlap in the Dry Comal Creek area. And so recently they came to us with an opportunity. It's a unique opportunity. They were made aware of some property. It's called the Ramirez Tract. It's in the northern area of Schertz, just north of the city limits in our ETJ, just across the street from the Comal Historic Settlement. So if you know where that is, right there at the intersection of FM 482 and 2252, just down the road from John Paul to High School. So it's about a 10.5 acre tract. There is a future connection possibility from this location in this Dry Comal Creek Trail to the Great Northern Trail along Schwab Road, either on street on Schwab or off street through some drainage culverts that have already been scouted and are 10 foot in clearance. So it's an opportunity to have a trail through there. Again, like I said, it's a 10.5 acre property. The Great Springs project is under contract for this property. They are going to act as a land trust, essentially. If you're familiar with that process, you know, they're willing to purchase the property and hold it up to a year based on an agreement. until an operator can be established. So they approached us, to be that operator. So a little bit about the property and the historical context associated with it. It is right along the El Camino Real de los Tejas National Historic Trail. It's a designation that was created by the National Park Service. There's several historic trails across the country. They have local chapters. They get together and they create these historic trails. They're signed, they're promoted, and people come for historic tourism to visit these areas. So this is right in that area. There's a lot of momentum building on this trail. I've been to a meeting in New Braunfels. There's meetings in San Antonio. Groups are getting together to help build out this trail. It's also adjacent to the historic Catholic cemetery there, the historic St. Joseph's Church, and that historic township. And I've got some photos here. If you've been over there, you recognize the historic church. It was also designated as a Schertz historic site by the Schertz Historical Preservation Committee. They've got their marker there. This is a historic Texas cemetery adjacent to this property. They have a very cool old wellhead that still works, so that's neat. Then across from this property is the historic Comal Township, and there's the blacksmith shop and another little general store type building. Again, Schertz historic site. There's the old 1915 marker there and another Texas State historic marker there in the Comal settlement. So all this history is just right there in this area adjacent to this property. Natural context. So it is on Dry Comal Creek. It runs right through the property. There is an ephemeral pond that for most of the year has water in it. I've seen it in the satellite images, just dry right now, given the heat. But there are some seeps that we found along the creek area that are really neat that still have water kind of seeping up through the ground, so that's really neat. There's floodway through here and floodplain. It has massive historical oaks, heritage-sized oaks on the property. We haven't had a tree survey done, but there's many, many beautiful oak trees that have been there for 100 years or more. And the picture there on the right is the seep, essentially, a very, very small spring where water's coming up through the ground. This is sort of looking at what would be the pond if there was water in it. This is us scouting the area, and all along the right and left there is the tree line with all the historic oaks. So it has great ecological value being there on the creek. We see a lot of tourism potential with this property, being a catalyst there in that historic township, and are looking at the potential for what it could be in the future. I think there's a lot of opportunity there for cultural tourism, that authentic Texas with those old buildings. Think Green Hall, Green Texas. Back in 1975, nobody thought Green Hall would be anything or Green Texas would be anything when they purchased those buildings, and look at it today. The historical tourism component that I mentioned, the National Historic Trail, the buildings, the cemeteries, people travel around all the time to visit these places. And then the nature tourism aspect, the hiking, the biking, and the agritourism. It's actually adjacent as well to the Comal pecan farm that's there. And I know he's got a thriving agritourism business with his pecans. So there's potential there in this area for all of these things to play together and create something special. So funding, we talked about, again, this is a neat opportunity. How would we be able to fund it? The purchase price is $375,000, and they are under contract, like I said. They are working on appraisal and a basic environmental assessment. We don't have that appraisal yet. They're willing to do all that, so we can make sure that, if we were to enter into a contract, we would be paying the appropriate amount. And so we've been looking at options, exploring options, if there's a way we could fund it. We have looked at the tree mitigation fund. It's not going to be a viable option, and we just thought that might be something to look at because of the heritage oaks. Essentially, we could take a loan from reserves and pay it back over time. It's similar to what we just did with the Windy Swan splash pad. We have $37,000 unallocated right now in the park fund. The rest of it is earmarked as a grant match for the Hilltop Park grant that we're going to resubmit for again this year. And then we did some projections on the park fund and what we think we're going to get. We have about $496,000 projected revenues to the park fund in 2024. So, we could loan ourselves some money now, and then we could pay it back through revenues to the park fund. Then we would have to apply for grant funding to be able to develop this property. There is trail grants available, and because this is a trail and on a future regional trail, I think this is a favorable project for a trail grant up to $300,000. That cycle is February 1st of 2023. And then we could apply for another local park grant in August 2024. We couldn't do it this August because we have a current pending application for the Hilltop Park. We're also looking at other grants. You know, there's a lot of other historical type grants and maybe some local foundations that would be willing to help fund this kind of a project. I think because it has such versatile appeal with all the components there, the historical tourism as well, and the fact that it's part of this bigger regional project with the Great Springs. If we were to develop it, here's what we would do, a conceptual plan. You know, it would be, there'd be a loop trail within the system, very minimal development. We do like a boardwalk through the areas that are in floodplain. And there would be a trailhead, but the goal would be to be a trailhead that you would get here and you would connect to this bigger regional trail in the future. Here's a rendering of what the trailhead would look like. I really think we're going for a natural state here, similar to what we have at Crescent Bend. You know, it would be very basic amenities, that natural feel. There'd be some parking and some picnic pavilions, some signage, and then again, this is a picture of what the boardwalk could look like through the area. We think it would be a neat addition to the system. So maintenance, obviously that's something we're concerned with, given all of our other properties and all the things that we have to do. So we've thought through it. You know, initially the property would remain undeveloped until we had the grant funds to do so. And maintenance levels would be at our natural standards, similar to Crescent Bend. So, you know, it's a shredding type mowing 6 times a year. We feel confident we can absorb that at this time. And then there is a pipe rail fence already around the property, so it's secure, so that's taken care of. Again, the trailhead amenities would be minimal, natural surface parking, a restroom facility, trail and interpretive signage, a picnic pavilion. But maintenance would be minimal because of the level of maintenance we would have at this type of natural facility versus your finish mowing and all the other more heavy intensive maintenance that we have to do in our neighborhood parks that get a ton of use with playgrounds and such. So some additional considerations, again, staff's still working through this, you know, figuring out new things. There are some deed restrictions on the property. We don't think that any of them are insurmountable. We just need to kind of work through them. We would need to have an appraisal done, again, by the Great Springs. We would have to have a basic environmental assessment to be able to make sure there's, you know, not Superfund site or anything like that. We need to figure out some funding, how we would work through this. And then we did talk to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board about this last night. There was general consensus for staff to continue to explore the options to acquire this property. They see the vision. I think we had 1 or 2 that were a little bit unsure, but majority are positive, some positive feedback on this idea. And so we're here today to get some feedback from council, whether, you know, we think this is a good idea to be able to continue to move forward to look at these options, and we would come back with a plan and an agreement to formally, you know, move forward with this. But at this time, we just want to get some feedback from you guys, what you think of this property and the opportunity. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion, questions.
Thank you, Ms. Schrum. Council? Questions? Councilmember Brown?
Now, the old Canal Town, it's got nothing to do with this as far as acquisition, correct?
Correct. Yeah, this is across from the
Right.
Comal Township, and it has nothing to do with that. We just feel like this property, with the city investing in it, could act as a catalyst for that area to help potentially develop it into a cultural tourism
Right.
hub, per se.
Yeah, but there's nothing linking them together right now outside of location.
I'm sorry, say that again?
There's nothing linking them together outside of location?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just chime in. I had a chance to visit the property. Lauren took me out there, and we tramped around for a while.
I didn't get a picture, sorry.
There you go. But it's beautiful. I
Yes.
mean, it's inspiring. And you think about Crescent Bend, sort of a Crescent Bend North kind of a thing. I think it would be a real addition if we could, you know, if we could find the funding. Now, did you look at hot tax, or is that not an option? Hot tax?
Oh, hot funds. We did not look at that yet. I'm open to that discussion if you want to discuss that now.
I think maybe to clarify what we're looking for on this, so we have a fairly short window. There's still work to be done on this if we want to move forward. Again, exhaust all possible funding options, look at some of the things with the property and whatnot. And so I think what we're really trying to get from council is this something that you are potentially open to cause staff over the next week or so to put in the effort and try to work the deal points out? Or is it one where your kind of answer is, you know, it's just a little too far out there, we need to kind of not get ahead of ourselves? I think that's really what we're looking for, so we can run those traps. Or, you know, say, thanks for the offer at this point, it's just not something that
Okay.
we can do.
Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like going up to Fredericksburg, and if we have time, sometimes I take a little divert and go by this little post office called Luckenbach.
Yep.
It's charming.
Yep.
And it's interesting, this being on the El Camino Real. I like rolling my R's sometimes. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. When I drive along that route, for some reason, it's a bicycle route. There's countless bicycles out there on Saturdays and Sundays streaming right by it.
They do.
And I could see this turning into a way station for bicyclists in the area. I love the idea. I told you a long time ago, I says, you keep thinking outside the box, you know. Reimagine what parks can be. Reimagine how you're going to pay for it. And I think you've checked all the boxes on that. This is looks like a beautiful concept here. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Councilmember Hayward.
Excuse me. I like the idea because it brings us some nature item or trail on this end of the county, or I shouldn't say the county, but the city, in the northern part of the city. And it looks awesome. I think it will add to it, and it will bring something in the future. And, you know, and trying to look at other ways of paying for it. I like that idea. So I'd say go for it. I think it'll be something nice in the future.
Councilmember Dalla.
I mean, conceptually, I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's in the right place. You know, I guess the primary concern that I would express is our ability to maintain it with the number of parks that we have, the personnel that we have. That, you know, acquiring the land is, you know, pretty simple and straightforward. You know, coming up with the grant money to develop it. But, you know, like we had with the natatorium, nobody thought about what's it going to cost to operate once we get to that point. And if we're going to spend $1 million to acquire and develop this, you know, we better have a good plan on how we're going to take care of it going forward as well.
I agree. And just to clarify, those were the grant amounts that are available, not that we'd actually need all of that money. So.
Well, I would think acquisition and putting in the trail system, we're probably going to get close to $1 million, whether we pay for it or whether it's grant money, but it's going to be a significant investment, and we need to make sure we can take care of it as well.
Agreed.
Councilmember Davis.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile pursuing. Again, it's up there next to the old coal mill settlement. It does have the potential to be an area to draw people to, as well as tie into that long trail system that, I mean, if you look at the success of the trail system in San Antonio, I think the more we can add to it and eventually connect to other communities works out for everybody. Crescent Bend's very popular. I do care, or I am concerned about maintenance in the long term, but again, different parks require different maintenance. More of a natural park, it's not that bad. So, and it gives us more flexibility beyond just South Schertz. It gives us something new on the north side, so I think we should pursue it.
Thank you.
I have a lot of hesitation on this, but Councilmember Brown.
I'm supportive of it also. We have all those developments going in up there, Park Hills and, or Parklands and Homestead and everything else. This would give them a easy to get to portion of that trail.
Thank you.
No, I have a lot of hesitation on this. As Councilmember Dalla had indicated, we have 26 parks. We have extended our parks staff very thin. Some of our parks are even needs some more attention also, and then acquiring another piece, another park, 10 acres, which requires at this time very minimal maintenance. And that's what worries me at this time, is that there's other parks that need some attention. And this is approximately $400,000 to acquire 10 acres, which is not a bad price either. And that's why I hesitate on it. Other than that, the land is beautiful. It's a nice place. But I'd like to see more what we're going to do with it. Because all we have is just the land. I'd like to see exactly if we're going to have campgrounds there where they can, where the Boy Scouts can camp out also. I'd like to see a plan that we can actually visualize what the vision is for this area. I think that would be a big selling point. And that's the only reason I hesitate at this time. But I think we have a consensus to go ahead and move forward on it and try to acquire
We'll keep working
the
on it.
acquisition of land.
And we'll come back to you. Yep.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll move on to roll call confirmation. Our city secretary, Brenda Dennis, will provide us a roll call confirmation on agenda items 1, 2, and 3, 5, 6, 7, and there was no vote on 8.
Yes, consent agenda items 1 through 3. A motion was made by Councilmember Davis, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0. Item number 4, resolution number 22R70, no action. Item number 12, which was to increase the compensation of the judge with the amounts of $1,150 for court session, $950 jury trial, $575 special docket, and $100 per magistrate. Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Councilmember Dalla. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0. Item number 5, ordinance number 22S27, final reading. Motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Whitaker. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0. Item number 6, ordinance number 22S28 on final reading. Motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Whitaker. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0. Item number 7, the workshop. Motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, seconded by Councilmember Brown, to appoint Councilmember Allison Hayward as the next Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed 6-0. And then on the work session number 8, no action.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis, and thank you for correcting me. I forgot item number 12. We also took a vote on that one. All right, do we have closed session? We still have 2 closed sessions that we have to discuss, and that's item number 10. The City Council will meet in closed session in accordance with Section 551.074 of the Texas Governmental Code on personal matters to discuss the direction to fill the city manager's vacancy. And item number 11, the City Council will meet in closed session in accordance with Section 551.072, Texas Governmental Code, deliberation regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property for future roadways, roadway extensions, and roadway expansions. The time is 7:31. We will reconvene after our discussion. Let's go. All right. The time is 8:04. We reconvene into our regular session after our discussion and deliberation regarding our closed session. That's item number 13. Any action or discussion that was held on in reference to the city manager's vacancy. The start time was 7:36 and end time was 7:45. There is no action required by council. Item number 14, in reference to item number 11, the real property of future road expansion. Start time was 7:46, end time was 8:01. Council, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion for the city to enter an agreement to purchase the subject property for an amount not to exceed $3.58 million, subject to coordination, review, and approval of the purchase contract by the city manager and the city attorney.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Councilmember Davis and second by Councilmember Dalla. Council, any other comments? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 7 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Oh, 6-0, motion passes, no objections. Okay, our city secretary, Brenda Dennis, will provide a roll call confirmation in regards to item number 14. Ms. Dennis?
I hope I got this right. Councilmember Davis made a motion, seconded by Councilmember Dalla, to authorize the purchase agreement of the property not to exceed $3.5 million, subject to the city manager.
Ms. Dennis, that was 3.58.
3.58, I'm sorry, 3.58 million, subject to approval of the contract by the city manager and city attorney. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola, Councilmembers Davis, Whitaker, Dalla, Hayward voted yes, no one voted no, motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. All right, we'll move on to item number 15, the quarterly financial report, and item number 16, an update on annexation and delayed annexation agreements. These are information packets that were provided to council and available for public viewing at our home site, Schertz.com. So we'll move on to requests and announcements. Any further announcements from our city manager, Dr. Brown?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Council, any possible updates or information requested from staff? Council, any possible items you'd like to place on the future agenda? No, all right, announcements by council. Mayor Pro Tem Scagliola.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes, I had the pleasure of attending the Parks Board meeting last night as the liaison from council. It was a very interesting meeting, and they had a great discussion on the future of the Parks program, so that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitaker.
I attended the Northeast Partnership Luncheon about 2 weeks ago. That's it. Thanks.
Councilmember Dalla.
Attended the chamber luncheon, and also I'd like to thank Mr. Kelm for his service, and really specifically all the work that you did with the CBLGC. It's going to be something really great when I get that thing going, so thank you for your efforts.
Councilmember Hayward.
Yes, I attended the Schertz Animal Advisory Committee, and we have the only NICU for cats in the area, and it's set up really well. They take really good pride in being there. It's a good show. It's really awesome. I attended the King Jung Mosul, I can't pronounce it, leadership. They wanted a leadership talk about what it is to be leadership. It is kind of difficult talking about leadership when you've got 5-year-olds to 8-year-olds that kind of don't get it. And the questions they started to ask the mayor and I, we were like, okay, but it was a good event. Northeastern Partnership, Main Street Committee Luncheon, did a chamber luncheon. Junior Academy today, they had the GVEC arcing trailer out there. It was pretty cool and pretty neat to see how they make things, arc and cause havoc on the lines. And then the last thing was really not for me as a city council member, but I went out with my church, and it's something that can benefit the city of Schertz, and they work in the city of Schertz. It is an organization called First Footings in New Braunfels, and they house people, single men and families that are homeless, and they have a program that tries to keep them and get them out from being homeless. They actually have a mental health, 2 doctors down there with them so that they can come in and talk, and I think it's a good thing, and I don't know that many people in the city of Schertz knows that they're there. And it's at the Edelweiss Hotel in New Braunfels, and it's just a really good organization because they said most of the shelters typically deal with families and single moms, and this one is just single men and couples. And they do a great job, and they look at people, and those that want to get out from being homeless, they work with them. If they're not interested, they just let them go because they don't want to create a atmosphere of just come here. So it's a good thing. Thanks.
Councilmember Brown. Okay, the time is 6:09. 8:09. We stand adjourned.